Chapter 4. 2 days later, Riley drove up to Lightfoot Farm. She wanted to buy a yearling steer to raise for meat, and she'd heard that the Lightfoots sold quality beef steers. It was the perfect excuse to see Calvin again. As flurries floated lazily on the faint, chilly breeze, Riley followed the gravel driveway that wound through the Lightfoot property. To the right, cows grazed on hay that had been thrown into the pasture for them since there wasn't much green grass for them to eat. A big gray 2-story house with white trim and shutters stood at the end of the drive. A line of 3 white barns had been built off to the right of the house. A couple of bunk houses occupied space to the left of the drive. Several cars and trucks were parked at various locations. Riley parked behind a blue pickup truck and got out. An Australian shepherd came running from the direction of the barns. It barked, announcing her arrival to the rest of the farm. Riley stood still and talked quietly to the dog as it sniffed her legs. It seemed to realize that she was friendly and allowed Riley to pet it. "Can I help you?" Riley looked up to see a tall, broad-shouldered man striding toward her. His gray eyes assessed her with a little suspicion even though he smiled. He had a dimple in his right cheek and a strong jaw. Riley thought he was handsome, but she preferred Calvin's dark, good looks. "I'm Riley Flowers, and I came to buy a steer." His smile broadened as he looked her over. "So you're the one who bought Shannon's. Mom was sure right about you being pretty. I'm Adam Lightfoot." Riley laughed at his flirting. "Thanks. Delia's a very nice woman. It's good to meet you. Now, about that steer?" "Come with me," Adam said. "What breed are you interested in?" Riley kept an eye out for Calvin as she followed Adam toward the barn. "A good beef producer. We have some really nice Angus steers right now." "Sounds good," Riley said. "Do you use hormones or antibiotics?" Adam shook his head. "Never have, never will." "Good." He led her between 2 of the barns to a large pasture, where big black cattle grazed and milled about. A few curious steers came over to the barbed wire fence when she and Adam approached it. Looking over the steers, Riley found them impressive. They were filled out nicely without being fatty, and their coats gleamed with good health. "You've got quite a nice herd here," she commented. "How much are you asking?" $700 and worth every penny. You won't find a more tender steak than you'll get from these beauties." Riley liked his confidence in his product. "I can see they're quality animals. How soon can you deliver?" "Tomorrow if you'd like," Adam said. "Great, that suits me just fine. Just pick one out for me." "I'll do that." Adam gestured for her to follow him again. "Come to the house with me. I'll pass you off to Calvin. He's the finance man around here. You can pay him and he'll get you a receipt." Adam noted the way her eyes widened a little at Calvin's name, and he barely suppressed a smile. "Okay, sounds good." Adam took her around the side of the house to a door marked Office. He opened the door and motioned her inside ahead of him. Riley stepped into the office, and a jolt of awareness ran through her when she saw Calvin seated at a desk. "Look who came to buy a steer," Adam said, grinning. Calvin frowned at him slightly, and then smiled at Riley as he stood up. "Hi. I'm surprised to see you after the other day." "It really wasn't a big deal," Riley assured him. Pheromones permeated the office, and Adam knew he wasn't the cause of them. With a knowing grin, he said, "I'll leave you in Calvin's capable hands. It was good to meet you, Riley." "Likewise, Adam." Riley wondered if her attraction to Calvin was that obvious. She decided that she didn't care. She always went after what she wanted, and she wanted to get to know Calvin better. Adam left them, and they stared at each other for a few moments. Then Calvin cleared his throat and motioned toward a chair. "Have a seat." "Thank you." Riley took one of the wooden chairs with arms in front of the desk. Calvin sat down and turned to a black desktop computer. "Which one of the steers are you buying?" "One of the Black Angus. They're excellent animals," Riley said. Calvin clicked a mouse a couple of times. "We only raise quality stock." "What tag number?" "I don't know. Adam's just going to pick one for me." Calvin sighed. Adam was a brilliant rancher, but he wasn't a stickler for record keeping. "Okay." He picked up his phone and texted Adam. Calvin. "Hey, dumbass. What tag number for Riley?" Adam. "Number 102. She's hot. and hot for you. Calvin, shut up. Not interested. Adam, bullshit. Calvin didn't respond. He laid his phone aside, brought up the Angus steer records, and typed sold into the spreadsheet column next to steer number 102. So do you always work in the office? Calvin met her gaze and thought she had the most incredible blue eyes he'd ever seen. They reminded him of sapphires, and he could easily get lost in them. I work outside in the mornings and then do the accounting and other office stuff in the afternoons. Riley caught her bottom lip in her teeth, and once again, Calvin had that odd desire to feel her bite him. The suggestive smile she shot him sparked his libido. Good to know. She leaned forward and planted her elbows on the desk. I might just have to call you here one afternoon. Calvin resisted the urge to roll his office chair back. What for? To ask you out, of course, Riley shrugged. I don't have your cell phone number, so... Calvin snapped his mouth shut to stop his stammering. You want to go out with me? Riley found his flustered surprise adorable. Yeah. Calvin wasn't sure what to do with that. He'd never had a woman be so direct before, and it threw him. No, you don't. Riley cocked her head a little. Why not? Calvin gave a short laugh. Ask anyone in Wolf Junction and you'll find out why. I'd rather hear it from you. Heat suffused Calvin's face, which irritated him. Fine. I'm clumsy as hell. I'm sort of a nerdy Indian cowboy with a brain for numbers. I don't like to drive, and I don't want a relationship because... He shut up before he blurted out that he'd been jilted. I just don't, he finished lamely. Undeterred, Riley propped her chin in her hands. Well, I just happen to be into clumsy, nerdy, intelligent Indian cowboys. As far as a relationship, why don't we just go out once and see how it goes? She was too close, too beautiful, and smelled too good for Calvin to resist her suggestion as he stared at her mouth. Sure, fine, okay. Where would you like to go? To bed, his brain screamed. The Blue Diamond has good food. Riley was mesmerized by the way his eyes darkened with desire until they were almost black. Her breathing quickened as her stomach fluttered with excitement. What was it about him that drove her so crazy? The need to kiss him was too powerful to fight. Grabbing his shirt collar, Riley pulled him closer and pressed her lips to his. He stiffened at first, but she didn't release him. The next moment, he angled his mouth over hers and cupped the back of her head as he came up off his chair. He shocked her by scrambling over the desk. His momentum drove her backward. She tripped over the leg of the chair and wound up on her ass with Calvin on top of her. Her right buttock took the brunt of the fall, but she ignored the pain as his mouth returned to hers. She obeyed Calvin's demand to part her lips and buried her fingers in his thick black hair as their tongues clashed. The growl he let out vibrated against her chest and her nipples tightened. His lips were even softer than they looked, and the thorough way he explored her teeth and mouth made her weak with hunger. She ran her hands over his shoulders, amazed at how warm he was. Heat practically radiated from him, and he smelled so good. Riley's touch drove Calvin wild, and he couldn't remember wanting a woman so much. Of its own accord, one of his hands slid up her torso until it covered one of her full breasts. She moaned and arched into his palm as he kneaded it. One of his thighs was trapped between her legs, and she moved restlessly against him. Calvin moaned as his groin tightened, and he ached to unite their bodies. Breaking the kiss, he rasped out, "We have to stop. The door. Someone. Oh, God." Riley didn't care that they lay on the floor of his office. She wanted him and wanted him now. The bulge of his erection pressed against her hip, and she yearned to touch him. Worming a hand between their bodies, she caressed him through his jeans. Closing his eyes, Calvin fought against ripping her clothes off as he grew even harder. "Riley, what the hell are you doing to me?" "I could ask you the same thing," she said. "I want you so much and I don't even know you." "This is insane." Calvin tried to pull away from Riley, but he stilled when he felt her unsnap his jeans. Her wicked smile made his heart slam inside his chest. "I know, but it's fun." Her fingers dipped just below the waistband of his jeans. "If you keep going, I won't be responsible for what happens," he warned. The smooth skin of his toned stomach enticed her. Arching an eyebrow at him, Riley inched her hand lower. Voices on the other side of the inner office door that led into the house made them freeze. As fast as his engorged member would allow, Calvin scrambled to his feet. He reached a hand down to Riley and helped her up. They straightened their clothes, and Riley finger-combed her hair. With a grimace of discomfort, Calvin sat behind his desk while Riley took her chair again. Calvin turned to the computer, intending to create a receipt for Riley, but his hands shook too bad to type or manipulate the mouse. He plowed a hand through his hair and tried to get himself under control. Looking at Riley, he saw the same struggle on her lovely face. With a gesture at the computer, Calvin said, "I can't think right now." Riley's naughty smile did nothing to cool his blood. Me neither. She took her wallet out of her purse, counted out 7 $100 bills, and handed them to him. "Here you go. You can give me a receipt tonight. 7 sharp at the Blue Diamond." She stood up and gave him another flirty smile before heading for the door. Calvin's hands gripped his thighs hard as he forced himself to stay seated instead of stopping her and taking her right against the wall. He blew out a sigh of relief once she was gone. It took him almost 10 minutes to calm down enough to accurately create her receipt. Printing it off and putting her money in the safe, Calvin didn't even bother trying to keep a smile off his face.